Another injured after a double stabbing at a TTC station.
Using this TTC station all the time, it's concerning for sure.
We've made arrangements to have additional police patrols.
It happened on the subway platform at High Park Station. A man is now in police custody as the TTC adds more special constables to patrol the system. Plus,
I will let the investigation and the hospital do the work they need to do to communicate with that family.
Ontario's chief coroner has been called in to investigate the sudden and unexpected death of a child at a hospital in Ajax. And
we see a fragility in democracies around the world, and Canada is no different.
As the fall session ends at Queen's Park, Bill 39 is officially passed, despite criticism and opposition, giving the mayors of Toronto and Ottawa the power to pass bylaws without the majority support of council. Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. One woman is dead, another in hospital after a double stabbing at High Park subway station this afternoon. Toronto police have a male suspect in custody tonight and say there is no threat to public safety. Still, the incident, the latest in a number of violent attacks on the TTC this year, has some very concerned. Tyler Cheese has more.
Police were called to High Park subway station in Toronto's West End at 2 p.m. to deal with a man armed with a knife who was behaving aggressively. Shortly after, police tweeted that 2 people had suffered stab wounds and a man had been taken into custody. The victims, both women, were rushed to hospital where one was later pronounced dead. No other details have been released. Locals now say they'll be taking extra steps to remain safe on the TTC.
Maybe I won't have my headphones on. I'll be a little more aware of my surroundings, but it won't stop me from using the TTC. I'll just more cautious of my surroundings, I guess.
Toronto's transit system has seen a number of violent attacks this year. In April, a woman was pushed onto the tracks at Bloor-Yonge Station, and in June, another woman was set on fire at Kipling Station. She later died from her injuries. The TTC says it's taking steps to protect people.
We've put extra staff out this afternoon just to give people more comfort as they're riding the TTC. So that means there'll be some additional special constable patrols. There'll be some additional uniformed staff that work in stations.
In a statement, Toronto Mayor John Tory said, "Our transit system should always be a safe place for everyone at all times. We will simply have to sit down again with the TTC and police officials to see what more we can do." Still, some are concerned there's been a rise in violent incidents targeting women on transit.
We know that 90% of sexual harassment and assault incidents in Canada's transit system are perpetrated by men against women. And that is very concerning. When women are not being stabbed like today, they are actually having to deal with stalking, intimidation and threats, personal questions, sexual assault, indecent exposures.
She says more needs to be done to address the issue, including more data collection and better training for operators and bystanders. Meanwhile, police are continuing their investigation into the stabbing. The TTC says High Park Station is closed. Shuttle buses are running between Keele and Jane stations. Police are asking anyone with information to contact investigators. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
An investigation is underway tonight by Ontario's chief coroner following the sudden and unexpected death of a child at Lakeridge Health in Ajax. The health minister addressing the tragedy today, but offering few details about the circumstances surrounding the death. Chris Glover has the latest.
The unexpected death of a young child inside Lakeridge Health in Ajax is shaking the highest levels of Ontario health.
I don't think any of us can comprehend how deeply saddened we are when we hear about the death of a young patient in Ontario.
The health minister wouldn't provide details as the death is now being investigated by the Office of Ontario's chief coroner, who wrote in a statement, "Coroners investigate when a death is sudden and unexpected, so the death of a 2-year-old may not merit an investigation if there was a known recorded disease process." The unexpected death has sparked lots of discussion online, but the hospital isn't saying what happened either due to patient privacy. In a statement writing, "Speculation in the absence of facts can be damaging, particularly to families and staff." Even as Ontario hospitals continue to deal with an onslaught of patients from RSV, the flu, and COVID, the Registered Nurses Association echoes that concern.
I would recommend we hold off on making any judgment.
As Doris Grinspun called on the public to wait for the full investigation, she also called on the provincial government to act now to better fund a system that is setting healthcare professionals up to fail.
Even if it's not related to the system fragility, which for the sake of the family and of all of us, I hope it's not, having a system that is this fragile sets up the staff, both nurses and doctors that are 24/7 in the front lines and others, to a vulnerability that we haven't seen before.
And certainly some of the reaction surrounding the child's death is coming right from healthcare workers themselves. Today, the health minister addressed them directly.
I really want to reinforce that these are incredibly dedicated, incredibly talented, educated people who have stepped up and continue to step up through what has been a very challenging virus season.
The health minister also trying to urge Ontarians that despite this child's sudden death, hospitals are still safe and available if they need them. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Peel police are investigating after a fatal shooting outside a busy Mississauga roller rink. A man was shot and killed in the parking lot of Scooter's Roller Palace last night. Greg Ross has more details.
Oh, it's a black one. This man, who asked us not to show his face on camera, was at the roller rink last night. He came back today hoping to get his car, which remained behind the yellow police tape. He says most of the people inside last night had no idea there had been a shooting.
The music is so loud inside. I even put my earbuds inside, and to preventing the loud music, because you cannot hear anything.
He says he only found out after police came in to tell everybody they had to leave.
Later, and the policeman said you can coming out one by one, writing down your name and your phone number or whatever, the address, and then you can go.
Scooters remained closed today as the investigation continued. At this point, police have not released any details about the victim, who was pronounced dead on the scene after police arrived.
Recently, there's been a lot of killings, and yeah, we're pretty concerned.
Many people who live in this area were surprised to hear that something like this had happened here. This man told us that this is a family-oriented business.
My kids grew up here and at that club, so always for the past 30 years, phenomenal reputation.
Because we've been here for so many years, right? I never have any problem. Suddenly they have something like a shooting, and then, I have to think about it. Next time, bring my daughter here.
Police have still not released any information about potential suspects in this shooting. We don't know what the motive was, and we still don't know if any of the people involved were inside the roller rink at any point last night. Still, so many unanswered questions. Greg Ross, CBC News, Mississauga.
Next week marks 5 years since Barry and Honey Sherman were murdered in their Toronto home. Their children were left to grieve the sudden loss of both parents with no answers on who killed them and why. Today, another appeal for any information. An autopsy concluded the Shermans died by strangulation. Last year, Toronto police released this footage. It was the first major update in years. The footage taken from a home security camera on Bannatyne Drive, more than a kilometer away. The suspect could have taken any path to and from the Sherman house on Old Colony Road. Their daughter in a statement saying, "The horrific manner in which they were taken from us has been extremely traumatic and has irreparably damaged the fabric of our community." Krawcheck also says the $10 million reward for an arrest is still active. The Toronto District School Board has met with parents for the second time this week to discuss safety plans in light of the recent surge of violence in schools across the city. Now, this comes after students at York Memorial Collegiate organized a walkout last week. Students protesting the conditions inside their school, saying they feel abandoned by their teachers and the school board. Now, last night, trustees looked at a staff report detailing ways to tackle violence in schools. Among its recommendations, implementing a safety audit team to work with schools on safety issues and bringing in school-based monitors and social workers. A meeting will be held tomorrow to pass the motions. Let's go to Dahlia Ashry now with a first check on your forecast. And Dahlia, really nice to see the sun out earlier today. Temperatures, though, starting to dip a bit tonight.
That's right, Kelda. We were sitting right where we're supposed to be with those seasonal temperatures, just a little bit above it. Usually at the daytime high earlier today would have been 2, and we were sitting at 5. We had that lovely sunshine, a little bit of a breeze, but really it's what we can expect for the next few days is that little bit of snow. But first, let's talk about what it was like earlier today. Like I said, it was 5 degrees in Toronto, so a little bit above seasonal temperatures. Usually would have been 2 degrees, a little bit cooler out in London, 4 degrees, but overall we're sitting where we're supposed to be with those seasonal temperatures. Now, we aren't expecting any rain tonight, although we are hovering and nearing that freezing mark. What we are going to be seeing, though, is some windy conditions as we kick off the weekend tomorrow. We're going to be seeing winds gusting close to 22 kilometers an hour and then slowly increasing Friday night, and then we could be seeing winds gusting up to 46 kilometers an hour by Sunday. Now, really Sunday, what we're going to be looking forward to is a little bit of that rain and snow, but we'll have more on that later. Really what we're seeing tonight, though, is nearing that freezing mark, -4, and then tomorrow 2 degrees, a little bit more sunshine while that lasts. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dahlia. The mayors of Toronto and Ottawa can now pass bylaws with less than a majority of council support. Bill 39 officially passed at Queen's Park on the last day of the legislative session. Now, shortly after it passed, Ontario's Lieutenant Governor asked MPPs to reflect on the fragility of democracy. Lorena Redicott has more.
The ayes being 76, the nays being 31, I declare the motion carried.
Bill 39 easily passes with the PC majority. The mayors of Toronto and Ottawa can now approve bylaws with just 1/3 support. Ottawa's mayor has said he doesn't plan to use the extra powers. Toronto's mayor says he'll use the powers in a limited way, but a majority of Toronto councillors are opposed to it. The PC government says this is about getting housing built.
We need housing. There's people in the gallery, there's people right here that are still renting. They're renting. We need to build homes.
All the opposition parties oppose it.
To bring in minority rule in the municipal government of our nation's capital city and our provincial capital city is deeply, deeply concerning.
It's just one of the controversial bills this fall. Among the others, the plan to develop land from the Greenbelt to allow housing to be built there, adding other land to the Greenbelt elsewhere, using the notwithstanding clause to impose a contract on CUPE education workers, then withdrawing it following widespread opposition. To formally close this session, the Lieutenant Governor entered to give royal assent on the final bills. She also had a message for MPPs.
We see a fragility in democracies around the world.
Elizabeth Dowdeswell then asked MPPs as they head home to reflect
about the very special privilege that each of us has to protect the democracy that we hold dear.
Hers is an apolitical role, but the opposition parties took it as a message.
I think the specific message to this government is that when you mess with democracy, you cause a great deal of anger and you set things up for destruction further down the road.
I'm not sure the government got the message because it's not the first time the message has been delivered.
If the government did take it that way, their House leader wasn't letting on.
Every time she comes into the House at the end of a session, especially before Christmas, she has some really, really important words to say, and I think she certainly reflected on certainly the challenges that we're seeing globally.
MPPs will have more than 2 months to reflect on democracy. They're on a legislative break, back on February 21st. Lorena Redicott, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. It's over budget, long overdue, and now confidential documents obtained by CBC Toronto are revealing some of the ongoing problems with the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Issues with the line have been kept secret by the province and its transit agency, Metrolinx. The documents we've obtained show the price tag for the line has jumped by $1 billion, and there's no credible plan to complete it. Angelina King takes us through it.
The internal Metrolinx documents paint a troubling picture of unresolved issues, unachievable timelines, and no clear plan to finish the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, They reveal while 98% of the construction and engineering work was complete earlier this fall, track and train testing is well behind schedule, only about 79% done. At the same time, the documents show the line is costing an additional $1 billion, now up to $12.8 billion so far.
This project has been completely mismanaged.
City Councillor Josh Matlow has reviewed the documents.
There's a myriad of different issues that Metrolinx need to resolve, and I only wish that they wouldn't be so secret.
The documents also show Metrolinx has raised internal concerns about water seepage and whether it's safe for the trains to operate along curves on the track. They also show the agency has accused Crosslinx, the private consortium hired to build the line, of ongoing underperformance. And so far, there's a lack of a credible plan to finish it. They also state Crosslinx is seeking $260 million in claims against the province. Councillor Mike Coles also reviewed the documents.
There's some very, very serious obstacles here that are just appalling at this stage.
Yesterday, Ontario's Minister of Transportation would only say,
"Our government is focused on making sure that it is safely operational as soon as possible."
The confidential internal documents are dated earlier this fall and were recently obtained by CBC Toronto. Metrolinx, Crosslinx, and Infrastructure Ontario all wouldn't comment on the issues they outline. The nearly $13 billion line runs 19 kilometers across Eglinton from Kennedy to Mount Dennis. It's being built under a public-private partnership, or P3. Recently, a scathing report detailed issues with Ottawa's problem-plagued LRT, also a P3. It found the consortium building it gave unrealistic completion timelines and criteria was lowered so the project could pass testing. Metrolinx's CEO declined an interview on the crosstown's testing and other issues, but recently told a board meeting he's been keeping a close eye on Ottawa's problems.
I think it's really important to learn lessons from equipment that operates on other networks.
This transit advocate worries the crosstown's current issues may be a sign of future problems as well.
It's worrying because of all the projects that Metrolinx is responsible for in the coming decade and more in Toronto.
Meanwhile, the internal documents offer no timeline of when the crosstown might finally open. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
And this is a live look of the Toronto skyline. Partly cloudy tonight and chillier than the past few nights. Currently, we are sitting at the freezing mark in the city. Let's go back to Dahlia now with a look at your long-range forecast. And Dahlia, you mentioned snow earlier. That's something that may be in store as we get into the weekend.
That's right, Kelda. I mean, some people still might not have their winter tires on. I'm letting you know from now, this is the time to do it, especially as we approach Sunday, because the roads might be a little bit slick. It's nothing like earlier today. We had that sunshine, a little bit of a breeze, and we will be seeing a little bit more windy conditions as we get into the weekend, and temperatures will start to dip as well. Earlier today, temperatures were at 5 degrees for the daytime high, sitting around where we're supposed to be with those seasonal temperatures, just a little bit above it, usually be 2 degrees. We get a little bit of that Arctic air that we're going to be feeling throughout the weekend and feeling a lot more like winter. We've been spoiled for the past few days with a little bit of rain and sunshine, but really snow is on the way. So speaking of which, tonight we really won't be seeing it. There might be some traces of snow for the southern part of the province, but it's really about Sunday. That's when we're going to be expecting a lot of that rain and snow mixing in together. So please make sure if you don't have your winter tires that you put them on, because the roads might be a little slick with that mixture. But that's really not until Sunday. Saturday we get a little bit of a break, but again, temperatures will be a little bit chilly because of the winds and those cooler temperatures. But we won't really be seeing snow. On Saturday we'll be getting a lot of sunshine. And then by the evening tonight, temperatures will drop to a low -4. So we are nearing that freezing mark. We're seeing that across the board in the Golden Horseshoe, Oshawa reaching to a low -5. So a little bit chilly for tonight. As we head into the weekend, like I said, we will be seeing a little bit of sunshine Friday and Saturday. It's really Sunday's the story. It's all about that snow and rain mixing in. Temperatures are trending below and near the freezing mark. So that's really something to look out for. And then Monday and Tuesday, as we head back to work and back to school, a little bit of sunshine on the way after we wrap up the weekend. Kelda?
Sounds good to me. Thanks so much, Dahlia. As prices continue to soar, food insecurity is becoming increasingly common, and it can be particularly hard for those who are new to the country. One food bank east of the city is trying to help. With assistance from the federal government, Feed the Need Durham is doing something new to help Ukrainian refugees.
Today we're seeing the Market Food Bank, which is a new initiative of Feed the Need in Durham. We opened in the summer. Specifically, we are serving after hours of those who need food banks and food assistance after hours. And we've been doing extensive work with the local Ukrainian community. We're seeing well over 60 families. Some weeks it's over 70 families attending our food bank. These are individuals who had to leave everything behind and they have nothing when they arrive here.
Hi, I'm Oksana. I came from Ukraine, and I'm also a newcomer. We came with my husband in July. After some weeks, I think I start helping here because I speak English and speak Ukrainian and Russian as well. It's an amazing place, not only to take food, because Ukrainians are surviving. Also, we can feel atmosphere like we're at home. Because we talk to each other, we share information, we share our experience, we share our news. Because many people who are coming from Ukraine, they don't speak English, they cannot read, they even cannot understand what they can get here. That's why I started volunteering, just to let them know what they can take, how they can cook, how they can prepare. And all of people have their own stories. And it's so amazing feeling to be a part of something great. Like I am a part of big community. It's incredible feeling when you can help, at least in such a way.
As CBC Toronto's Sounds of the Season continues throughout the month, raising food and funds to support local food banks. So far, we've raised nearly $470,000. For more information on how you can get involved, visit cbc.ca/SOTS. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Marivelle Tarouk will have your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.